Welcome back to the Build Bodies podcast. I'm your host, Alan Jaramillo, and this podcast talks about how to make fitness a lifestyle instead of a crash course while building your body. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how I lost 10 pounds in the last 4 weeks, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I did to do just that. In this episode, I'm going to break down what I'm currently doing, why it works, and then I'm going to break down the 5 reasons why I'm able to drop body fat relatively quickly compared to the person just starting out. And no, this doesn't involve any secret magical supplements or anything like that. I'm going to make it as super clear, and I'm just going to go over what currently works for me. So let's talk about what I'm currently doing. Right now, my routine is very simple. I go to the gym 5 days a week. Each workout is around 60 minutes or so. And in terms of cardio, I'm not doing anything more than 12,000 steps per day. That may sound like a lot, but for people who go to the gym, go to the grocery store, people who just take regular walks outside, it's not too difficult. Now, if you live a very sedentary lifestyle where you're at a desk all day, it might be a little bit difficult for you to get to that number, but that's just the metric that I settled upon to just control, okay? And I operate off of controlled variables, so that's why I have the same macros each week, same gym sessions, as well as same step goal, for example. Okay. Now, I'm not going to tell you my macros because some people hear my macros and they try and copy them for themselves. It's not going to work for you. So I will tell you that I am following macros, and my macros are not relatively too bad. I am eating above 2,000 calories a day to lose the last 10 pounds. And again, the macros are specific to me, so that's why they work. Okay. Macros are not just like a one size fits all approach. Macros have to be tailored to the person for it to work properly. Now let's get into why this works. Now, the reason why this works is because of compliance. That's the number one reason why anyone succeeds in anything. And the way that I've set up my diet, my training, it's not just like some unsustainable thing that's very hard for me to stick to. So I focus on compliance. That's the first thing. The second reason why it's been working very well is because I have a good understanding of macros. I've been tracking them since I was 16 years old, and now I'm 25. So I understand how macros work. I understand different foods. And I was actually just at a restaurant a couple of days ago with some friends. And because of my understanding of macros, I was able to get a filet mignon with a potato, a big loaded baked potato. And I was also able to have an espresso martini. And the next day I actually weighed lighter, okay, than the previous day. And I was able to hit my lowest weigh-in of 203.4, coming down from 213 pounds, which is where I started. So that's one of the magical reasons to try macros. Macros is not a restrictive diet. It's a way of eating that allows you to be flexible when you need to be and allows you to stay very healthy and disciplined when you have the ability to do so. Now, the next reason why this is working is because I'm just following a normal calorie deficit, okay? I'm not only losing fat because of doing a keto diet or cutting carbs or whatever. I'm having plenty of fats, plenty of carbs, and plenty of protein. And it works because I'm in a calorie deficit, which means that I am eating less calories than my body is burning on a daily basis. Okay. And everyone has this baseline. So it's that easy to be able to do. You just have to have the education to know exactly how to do it. And that's important to understand. Now, the fourth thing that is making it very easy for me to do this is I understand voluminous foods, okay? So what I'm doing that's helping me out big time is that two or three of my meals that I eat throughout the day, and I'm usually on like a 4 to 5 meal a day plan right now because that fits better with my schedule instead of just having only 1 or 2 meals per day. A lot of my meals have a lot of vegetables in them, and that is a total game changer. So I like zucchini, I like squash, and I'll make sure that half of my plate is zucchini or squash. And what that does is that it allows me to stay very full. It allows me to hit my fiber goal for the day. And then it also allows me to hit my micronutrients, which vitamins and minerals, they're super important for making sure that internal bodily process function properly, as well as just energy throughout the day. They're crucial. We cannot just have macros and forget about the micros. We need to focus on both to have an overall good transformation and just good energy throughout the day. So let's get into the 5 reasons why I am able to lose fat and tone up a little bit faster than the average person, okay? The first thing is that I've been building muscle for a decade, and this is something that a lot of people want to skip, but if you're my client, you've talked to me on the phone, you've inquired about coaching, I will always tell you that you need to build your base first. The reason why is because toning works like this. You only get toned if you have muscle. So a lot of people try and get toned when they have built no muscle and then they just look soft, okay? So think like melted ice cream cone versus like chiseled, toned up body that you want. If you are someone who doesn't lift any weights, you only do cardio, you only eat less calories, you're going to have that melted ice cream cone look, okay? And then the vice versa is that someone who's been building muscle for years is able to cut down. And if you're on YouTube right now, you can see like what I'm talking about, okay? Now, when it comes to just really like stripping fat away and retaining muscle, it's a lot more than just building muscle. There's a formula to it, and I'm going to get into that in the following steps. Now, the second reason why I'm able to lose fat and tone up a little bit easier is because I have a very good understanding of appetite and how to control it. So there's 2 big things here. There's understanding voluminous foods, like I just touched on in the previous point, and there is controlling your appetite and cravings, okay? These are 2 of the biggest things that keep people from staying on diets, because if we really think about what causes someone to fall off plan or what causes someone to, just indulge and go crazy, it's because they're underfed, they're very, very, very hungry, and they get triggered by certain things. So if we limit those things from happening, it makes it much easier to have compliance at an all-time high. And I am no special person. Like, I am not like a 1 cookie kind of guy. I'm like 5, 10 cookies kind of guy. And I've done all that. I've done all those binges. So I know that for myself. I'm not like a 1 serving of ice cream kind of guy either. I am like, I'll have the entire pint if I know it's in the freezer type of guy. So that's who I am. That's who I know that I am. All right. That comes from a long childhood of just never really being satisfied with food. I would always finish my plate, and I would always have double the amount of servings growing up. Okay. My appetite just felt like it was never ending. And I don't know where that came from, psychologically speaking, but that is exactly how I grew up, and that carried on into my adulthood as well. And I've always had a problem with it. So what I do now is I make sure that I limit my hunger. Okay. So I never really am hungry because of having a tremendous amount of vegetables in my diet. And that allows me to stay full. It allows me to stay satisfied. And once you're satisfied, it's a lot easier for you not to look elsewhere for different things that you're craving. The second thing is I understand what triggers me. So I know what foods I cannot keep in the house. I talk to clients all the time, and usually if they ever fall off track, it's because they have something near them, right? The ice cream in the freezer, the cookies in the pantry, the chips in the pantry, and what ends up happening is that they just have it there. And if you're seeing it every day, if you're opening the freezer and seeing the ice cream every day, eventually it's going to start to get to you if you're that type of person. So that's why it's incredibly important to understand why these things trigger you and to remove them from ever being a problem in the first place. Now, it's not me saying that you should never have ice cream, because I have ice cream as well. I had some sorbet at the restaurant I was at a couple days ago, and that was delicious. I was able to enjoy it. But the biggest thing is understanding that when you know you can't control yourself on with a specific food, it's better to just keep it out of arm's reach. So that way you actually have to go somewhere and, knowingly buy that item. If you're at a restaurant or something like that, or you actually have to go to the store to get it, it makes it a lot easier, and it makes it easier for you to stop in your tracks and think, do I really want this item? Should I be having it? Or is it something that's not going to put me towards my goals? Okay. Now the next thing is that with my cardio, I always start small and I snowball. Okay. what a lot of people end up doing is they run into the biggest problem, which is your metabolic adaptation. Okay. So what that basically means is that your metabolism starts to adapt to everything that you're currently doing to it. Okay. So if you start off with 45 minutes of cardio per day out of nowhere, you start from 0 to 45 minutes of cardio per day because you're trying to get results fast. A couple things happen here. One, you lose more muscle this way. Two, if you're under eating. Two, your metabolism and your body will adapt to that number. So what ends up happening is that you put yourself in this corner that's very hard to get out of because your body will eventually adapt. Once it does adapt, what you're going to have to do is go higher than 45 minutes of cardio per day. Now, what I've done is I've started with steps. So I haven't even started doing hard cardio yet. I've only just been focusing on steps, and I use my Apple Watch to track it. So now when I hit my wall of, okay, this is as many steps as I can do throughout the day, and that's sustainable for me, then I just move on to the next thing, which is adding more intense cardio, and that's what I will do. But I've been able to lose 10 pounds with just steps, and that's a very important thing to understand because it is possible for you to do the same. You just have to make sure that variables are controlled, and we scale them up over time. That's as simple as that. Now, the other thing that I'm currently doing that allows me to lose more fat is understanding macros, okay? And the reason why I wanted to bring this up specifically is because a lot of people have been seeing my body fat drop online through Instagram and my updates, and how I'm able to get my body fat to drop but my muscles to pop is I have a good understanding of macros. And since I'm able to keep my protein in the right ratio, the carbs in the right ratio, and the fats in the right ratio, I'm able to have optimal hormone levels. I'm able to have optimal energy throughout the day so that my workouts are still moving forward and I'm still hitting PRs. And I'm able to have enough protein throughout the day so I'm able to not only recover from the workouts, but I'm able to preserve muscle. So this is why I prefer macros over everything else, because if you want to eat clean with macros, you can. If you want to eat tacos with macros, you can do that too. You can do whatever you want with macros, but having them tailored to your body, your physique, where you're currently at, and having them change as time goes on, because that's also necessary too, that will ultimately make it a lot easier for people to sustain this long term. And the last thing that has allowed me to get the results so far that's worked really well for me is a mindset shift of trying to be consistently good, then occasionally great. Now, what I mean by that is that a lot of people try and be perfect. They live inside this box where it's super restrictive. They're trying to do everything that they think they need to do, like all the cardio in the world, all the weight training in the world, all the restrictiveness in the world, and cutting out food groups because they're trying to get someplace quick. Now, what ends up happening is that may work Monday through Thursday, but what happens when your friends invite you out to a dinner Friday? What happens when you go to the club on a Saturday? What happens when you go to a bar? What happens when you go on a family vacation after following that approach? What happens is that you essentially set yourself up for failure because you tried to be perfect Monday through Thursday, and what ends up happening is that it's unrealistic. So once it's unrealistic, it makes it incredibly difficult for you to sustain that while you're in a different situation that you don't have everything controlled. So willpower eventually gives in, and then you overeat your face off, right? And the reason I can speak so detailed about this is because I have done this for years when I first started out. And this is something that I help clients do as well. We need to make sure that we have a very good understanding of that relationship between balance as well as just making sure that it's sustainable, okay? And what's worked really well for me is I am just focused on being as good as I can. I don't hit my macros every day. I have my macro targets and I have everything set up and all of that, but it's not perfect every day. And some days I do better than others, and other days, like this past weekend, it was a Friday dinner with family, a Saturday dinner with friends, and then Sunday was Father's Day. So it was 3 back-to-back days of eating out at restaurants. Now that's not perfect, right? I can do whatever I need to do to try and track my macros, but those days are not going to be as perfect as I want them to be because they offer a bunch of different variables, and that's okay. I used to live in the type of world where I would say no to dinners because I wanted to stay on track. But this week I've had 3 back-to-back dinners and I've been able to still drop body fat and body weight since last weigh-in the previous week. So what does that tell you? It tells you that you can navigate a restaurant in many different ways. It also tells you that it's just better to be consistently good than occasionally great, because when you find yourself in those situations, you're not tempted to just go off the walls. And that's something that's just very, very, very important to understand. Okay. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Built Bodies podcast. I appreciate the support so much, guys. If you have any questions, concerns, anything like that, drop a comment down below if you're listening on YouTube. And if you are listening on Spotify, a rating would be super greatly appreciated. And if you guys want to share this to get the message out, I would really appreciate that. But I'll see you guys on the next episode. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.